A very good afternoon to you here from Auburn, Alabama. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely as we dive into today's news on a gorgeous day in the federal city. Lots of rain down here in the loveliest village on the plains. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump set to host the national Christmas tree lighting at 6 o'clock Eastern, all in a day's work after the president has settled peace between the DCR and Rwanda, with earlier coverage from our great colleague Matthew Alvarez covering everything inside the Beltway and what's happening on the outside of the Beltway. Feel free to reach out to us, feedback at rsbn.tv, as we get ready in the mood for the Christmas season this Advent, and thank the good Lord for all of the many blessings bestowed upon this great country, now in a golden era as we look towards our 250th birthday. We'll have some great insight from a regular guest on this hour, including some footage of what it looks like inside and outside the motorcade as the president returning to the White House before this tree lighting ceremony. And then in addition to that, some words from Secretary Duffy. But in case you did miss it earlier this week, this amazing landmark Dell gift given by Michael and Susan Dell, yes, of the Dell Corporation, to give these Trump accounts a head start for America's kids. You can actually go to the homepage right now, trumpaccounts.gov. That's trumpaccounts.gov. You will see the landing page, which will become active come July 5th. So one day after the 250th birthday celebration, and we can jump to that video showcasing and highlighting that from this week.
In honor of America's 250th anniversary, the Dells are announcing today that they are giving 25 million American children $250 each to save and to invest in their personal Trump account.
Susan and I are super excited to announce our $6.25 billion gift to 25 million American children.
When children have a future that they can see is worth saving for, then that will help build hope and opportunity and prosperity for generations to come.
We are going to make sure that all American families have a stake in the success of the United States of America.
We're just getting started. Today is day one. This is an extraordinary contribution, but it's the beginning of a drumbeat you're going to hear for the next 6 months leading up to the 250th anniversary of the country. I don't think there's anybody in the country who won't have heard about this.
And this will be one of the many marquee achievements of the Trump administration.
So to break down this $6.25 billion gift from the Dells, the Trump accounts are a new historic savings tool made by President Trump. So this public and private partnership changing the landscape as part of the Family Tax Cuts Act, in addition to the One Big Beautiful Bill. So we saw that along with CEOs and leaders in America's car industry at the White House this week. Senator Ted Cruz has been on hand at the White House quite a lot this week as one of the leading congressional members on these very issues. But this landmark gift, one of the largest in American history, can pave the way for those really getting a head start in America. And it's not something like the New Deal of FDR or even the Great Society of LBJ, which actually turned out to be a nightmare for countless generations of families, especially for African American families. This led by capitalism, this led by freedom of choice, this led by generosity in this season of giving, dramatically accelerating President Trump's initiative to give every newborn child a head start toward the financial security and the American dream. As President Trump said this week, to quote, "This is a pro-family initiative that will help millions of Americans harness the strength of our economy to lift up the next generation. They'll be ready to get a big jump on life." And here's what you need to know about the specifics regarding this. Trump accounts will be available to every U.S. citizen born between January 1st of this year and December 31st of 2028. These innovative tax advantage savings accounts created through President Trump's Working Families Tax Cuts Act enables a generation of American children to begin building wealth from the moment they are born. Each Trump account will launch with one-time $1,000 government seed contributions. And thanks again to Dell's unprecedented gift, the first 25 million American children aged 10 and under living in zip codes where the average median income is below $150,000 will receive an additional $250. And many questions about who is eligible. Any child under 18 with a valid Social Security account and number may open a Trump account. Now, parents or guardians must set up and manage the account until the child turns 18. The money, can it be withdrawn before the age of 18? A common guideline as you look towards your IRA and your savings. No, the funds must be not withdrawn before the child turns 18, except for a rollover of the entire account. So that's with another brokerage, trustee to trustee transfer. Certain rollovers are able in the account in the year the child turns 17 or the distribution upon death. After 18, the standard IRA laws would and rules apply to that. So you can go to more information at trumpaccounts.gov regarding this very important and monumental shift in American domestic policy. Also, can your employer offer Trump accounts and a contribution plan through the cafeteria plan? Yes, the pre-tax salary reduction contributions will be allowed to Trump accounts owned by an employee's dependent child through an employer-sponsored cafeteria plan up to $2,500. So another initiative there in the private sector as we cover what is happening inside and outside of the Beltway. We have a special programming note that this Christmas tree lighting tonight at 6 o'clock is actually in the regular place of the Voice of Reason. So we'll be airing that tomorrow at a time to be set, a special presentation of the Voice of Reason tomorrow, December 5th of 2025. And it's amazing to think how quickly this year has gone as we begin the Christmas season with a tree lighting ceremony at 6 o'clock, but at 5 o'clock, roughly in about 53 minutes from now, we will have a pre-program that will feature members of the administration and the cabinet, and of course, the president and the First Lady of the United States of America to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony. So it's a joy to be with you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network as we go into the prime time tonight at 4:08 Eastern, but that's an early afternoon, still on that golden west coast of America. And speaking of the First Lady, she has some updates in her schedule for the week, welcoming progress in the Russia-Ukraine Children's Reunification Initiative. So you may have remembered this from the past few weeks where 7 additional children, 6 boys and 1 girl, have been reunited with their families in Ukraine. This being reported from the White House this afternoon. The following is a statement from the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, regarding the humanitarian efforts of all parties participating in this initiative. And remember, she was directly on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin in regards to this ever near and dear important issue to the First Lady's heart. To quote First Lady Melania Trump, "My dedication to guaranteeing the safe return of children to their families in this region is unwavering. I commend the leadership and persistent diplomacy of Russia and Ukraine in the pursuit of the reunification of children and families. Their bridge building has created a tangible collaborative environment and anchor for optimism." The cooperation will continue to drive this process forward through the next phase. And in close partnership, my representative and I have provided humanitarian support from the United States to enhance the reunification initiative's outcome. My hope is that ultimately our collective efforts will lead to broader regional stability. As President Trump mentioning from the Oval Office this week, the travesty that continues to be the Russia-Ukraine war that happened under the Otto Penn Biden administration. A terrible tragedy, and both militaries suffering huge casualty losses, including the loss of collateral damage and innocent life because of this terrible stalemate that we pray comes to an end very soon, as President Trump has solved 8 wars over the course of his tenure. That number 9 will be bittersweet between Russia and Ukraine, and we will stay on that ever-developing story, as the First Lady has been much more vocal recently, especially during the holidays, and helping out where she can with a recent visit to Joint Base Andrews. Mr. Director, if we have that video ready to go of the First Lady earlier this week, in case you missed it.
Today, we are surrounded by people whose strength is often quiet, but always powerful. Through every transition, every deployment, every homecoming, you continue to show grace, determination, and unbreakable spirit, all while giving comfort to your family. You carry this extra responsibility because you love someone who has sworn to serve. Today, we are here with the American Red Cross, which has stood beside military families for generations. Every package built here today is built with American values. Each represents liberty, love, community, and honor. Each is delivered with heart and love, the foundation of our great nation.
And with all of that happening, we have a stakeout outside of the White House along those gilded green patches and those tarps there. It's known as Pebble Beach. So not just the great golf course out west on the Monterey coast, but also where our friends and colleagues in the media wait for anything that might take place inside and outside of the White House. Just a few short steps away, the entrance to the West Wing, and in turn, the entrance and exits of the James S. Brady briefing room that we often take you to for Caroline Levitt's press briefings, the superstar who has been doing really the most fantastic job representing this administration with the highest ethical qualities and candor, and someone who can defend these principles and policies of the Make America Great Again, America First agenda, with also being very charitable and gracious towards those in the media and vice versa. I mean, we've had unbridled access as new media, as legacy items in that room as well, to get this information to you, the American people, in this golden era and a digital age unlike any other. As many on the left trying to create even more controversies, being that it's hard for them to win at the ballot box. And although they had some success in New York City, the Garden State, and the Commonwealth of Virginia back in November, the special elections on December 2nd, especially in the Tennessee 7th District, with Matt Van Epps winning that against a full-blown communist. She's the AOC of Tennessee, as they have put it. And we'll see if we see Miss Bain in and around the political atmosphere and Washington, D.C. in the future. But someone who has really given himself selflessly in service, Matt Van Epps, will be someone who gave a speech from the House floor stating that he is ready, willing, and able to continue in that service to make America great again with the help of this executive branch and the work he'll be doing in Congress to make that a 220 mark for Republicans, a very slim majority of 213. Then you also have 2 vacancies upcoming with a January special election in Texas 18. That will be for Sylvester Turner's seat. He passed away earlier in the year. A very heavy Democrat seat there outside and somewhat inside of Houston, Texas. If you want to talk about gerrymandering, go take a look at Texas 18. You can find that easily on Wikipedia or even other sources at house.gov. So that very much a Democrat seat. And then Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill of New Jersey, her seat is up, but with the Cook PVI, only a Democrat plus 5 seats. So maybe an opportunity there for the April 16th special election of 2026 to fill that seat. But come January 6th of next year, there will be a vacant seat in the 14th district next door to us in the Peach State of Georgia, the northwest corner, as Marjorie Taylor Greene announcing her resignation, and Governor Kemp will be arranging a special election date set for that. So we'll be watching those elections closely as we are gearing up for the 2026 midterms, one that will be extraordinarily important and one that we will really dive deep on with all candidates right, left, and center. As it's shaping up, it seems to be really a competition of those who believe in capitalism versus communism, common sense versus lunacy. It's not so much Republican versus Democrat, really people wanting to come to the same conclusions, just a different way of how to get there. No, I think it's been very proven by those elected Democrats, especially in Washington, D.C., that they have a vastly different agenda from we, the people. And we saw it this week, even with Governor J.B. Pritzker, once again, if he continues to make headlines for all of the crime and the failures of Chicago, Illinois, and the state as a whole. He is now having signed a memorandum and actual legislation that came out of the General Assembly regarding misinformation, as the Democrat puts it, on vaccines and science that would rather not be accepted by the state of Illinois. I can't think of anything more frightening to not allow doctors to come to their own conclusions. But that's what you see from far left radicals who have taken over certain parts of the country. And it's sad, quite frankly, because some of the most common sense good people come right out of the Midwest. But we are here to interview and find those who are taking the right side of history and those who would disagree as well. Always welcome to come on the program, whether it be the Voice of Reason or the live desk, to make their stake known in this golden era. Now, again, some on the left would like to make you think that there is this signal gate, there is this supposed violation by the Secretary of War, and you hear some of that happening throughout the halls of Congress. But President Trump having that cabinet meeting this week, reassuring the American people that he has all his faith within the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, and the Pentagon for the work that they are doing, striking these boats of narco terrorists, which, as we interviewed Jim Paff earlier in the week, many taking the opinion that within Article 2, President Trump, as the commander-in-chief, can take these actions through the Pentagon, through his generals, and even through the Secretary of War to stop what has been a war on our ports, what has been the pouring in of an open southern border, mostly thank you to AutoPen and the former administration. Think about this. A thimble, or really the head of a needle, that's all the fentanyl that you need to potentially kill 25,000 Americans. And until people face it in their own families or their friend groups, it's hard to comprehend this. You might think, oh, it's a drug addict and they couldn't get the help they were seeking. No, in many cases, it's people that were simply poisoned. Many children in the prime of their lives who would simply be poisoned, whether at school or out with their friends, or even asking for something as simple as Tylenol. And that's why I've been trying to message out there to as many people as possible, even if it is what seems to be over the counter. Make sure that's sealed. Make sure you know where that all is coming from, because of an open border, you've had these moments where you've had even regular over-the-counter prescriptions become deadly as a result of this drug and narco trafficking. And something that's been on the mind not only for Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan. Oh, and by the way, in 6 months, no holdovers, 0 coming into the country zero getaways as a result of the Trump policies. And again, we don't necessarily know who's in the country, thanks to the auto pen, as these people work overtime in the executive branch of our government to make America safe again. Secretary Sean Duffy of Transportation really working overtime to make sure that America's skies and the trains and our highways all safe and free to travel on in this golden era.
How great is this? We have Kobe here emceeing our event. He is a legend, National Soccer Hall of Famer, a three-time World Cup player, Fox Sports analyst. So Kobe, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this for us. Again, bringing so much energy in a week of great soccer energy with the FIFA draw tomorrow. So we are truly grateful for that. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Welcome to DOT. Thank you all for coming. Listen, we are excited. Tomorrow is going to be a great day at the Kennedy Center. President Trump is going to be there. Thousands of people are going to be in attendance. But around the world, 1 billion people are going to tune in to watch the draw at the Kennedy Center. So we're excited that we're kicking the event off today here at DOT. We're excited about FIFA. The president is excited about FIFA because it's a great sporting event, but it's going to come to America on our 250th anniversary. And again, in America, we love sports. We love to celebrate our birthdays. So to combine those two things together is going to be absolutely fantastic. On top of that, at the White House, we're going to have the first ever UFC fight as well. So it's going to be a great celebration of America's 250th birthday. As we look to these games, right, we're going to have 6 million people that are going to come into the United States to watch these games. So I've talked with State, I've talked with Homeland. We've partnered together. The president has given this directive. If you're watching around the world, we're going to make travel seamless for you as you come into the country. We're going to make it as easy as possible so you can come in and enjoy the great World Cup event that's going to go off. Some people have wondered, well, we're here at DOT. Why are we at DOT? What do you have to do with FIFA and the World Cup and soccer? I don't want to overstate it, but I think we may be more important than the coaches, the refs, maybe the players. I'm not sure. We have a big role in making sure that this event goes off really well. And so I just want to talk about that a little bit because people move throughout the country during the World Cup on planes, trains, and automobiles. And so first, we have the FAA. The FAA knows we're going to have a lot of international travel that comes into the country. And then as people get to the U.S., a lot of people are going to travel by airplane between the host cities. We are clearing the skies, clearing the decks, making sure air travel is going to be seamless. The FAA is already working on that. The one thing we can't control is the weather, so if we have weather issues that pop up, I don't have any control on that, but the FAA is working to make sure air travel goes incredibly well. Rail, we're prepping our tracks, making sure we have enough cars as fans go between host cities, making sure that our rail runs on time, our rail is safe. All that work is happening right now as we prep for a massive number of fans coming into the country. Motor carriers, incredibly important as people travel between host cities on buses, making sure we have buses that are safe, making sure we have drivers that are vetted. But almost more important than that, as our fans go to the games, we need to make sure that we have enough beer and hot dogs. And it's our motor carriers that make sure that we are well stocked with all of the accoutrements for an enjoyable game. They also bring in all of the equipment that allows our networks to broadcast this event worldwide. And so that's the role that motor carriers play. One of the biggest parts of what we do, though, is transit, and making sure that our subway systems, our buses, we have enough cars, we have enough buses. We actually bring in additional assets to make sure we can move people seamlessly from the hotels in which they're staying, getting them to the games, getting them there on time, getting them there safely. All happens at DOT, and so it just doesn't happen by us, making it an afterthought. We've been thinking about this for over a year. How do we make these games great? How do we showcase America to showcase then the World Cup? And so I want to thank the whole DOT team who's here. Again, we have consistent meetings. How are we doing? How is everyone working together? And I feel very confident as a secretary that this is going to go off incredibly well. I do want to take a moment, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for you all, but one of the issues that we see that I think is it's a tragedy. There's a lot of human trafficking in the U.S., but around the world. And when big sporting events like this happen, it is a time when more human trafficking takes place. And we want to do all we can to make sure we stop these young women who are being trafficked. And I want to take a moment, I was just talking about transit. The New Jersey transit team has gone above and beyond to make sure they're running ads, heightening the knowledge of their travelers to understand the signs of someone who may be trafficked. And so the DOT today, U.S. DOT, is going to award for their great work New Jersey Transit an additional $50,000 as a recognition of the work that they're doing to stop human trafficking and to maybe put a few more resources into that effort to make sure people see the signs. Again, we want to enjoy these games. It's a great time to celebrate. It's a great time for countries to rally around their teams, but we also want to make sure that if there are bad things happening, that we're doing all we can to stop it. So to New Jersey Transit, we thank them for all that they're doing. So again, I want to welcome you all to DOT. Thank you for being here. I want you all to know that, again, we are working incredibly hard. And it's not just us, again, though we probably have the most important part of this. Don't tell Marco Rubio or Kristi Noem I said that, but we do. But we all are working together. And what I love is that our president, you go to the Oval Office, he's had a FIFA trophy sitting in the Oval for months on end. He is excited about the games and has given a directive to all his cabinet secretaries. Make sure this is seamless. Make sure this is great. Make sure this is the greatest sporting event for the World Cup ever. And so that is the mission, and that's what we're trying to deliver on. I'm a hockey guy. I'm sorry, Kobe, not necessarily a soccer guy. It was before my time in northern Wisconsin. So I'm going to give you the 1980 Olympic hockey team, Herb Brooks, whose famous quote was, "Great moments are born from great opportunity." Gentlemen, we have a great opportunity coming this summer. Let's maximize it. Let's love it. Let's have a blast. Let's have a ball. Let's stay safe. And let's make sure the U.S. wins. With that, Kobe, I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
Arguably one of the best upgrades from the last administration. Do you think Pete Buttigieg can make sure America was safe for FIFA 2026? I don't think so. Secretary Sean Duffy really doing an extraordinary role in that in regards to FIFA 2026, which should be a grand celebration of a remarkable sport to bring the world together right here on America's soil. We are watching as President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump in roughly 90 minutes from now hosting the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony at 6 o'clock, with the ceremonies beginning at 5 o'clock. This holiday season reminds us how important it is to gather with family and friends, but it's big on travel, and our health very key to keeping it strong during this time of year. That's why we trust All Family Pharmacy at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Save 10% off now with code RSBN10. Over 300 medications that you can have right there for you in your medicine cabinet, or you can even travel with these as well. Tamiflu, antibiotics, antivirals, ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, emergency medical kits. Again, 300 plus medications essential to keeping you and your family safe during the holidays. Go to allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Order online. A licensed physician reviews your order. It's no red tape, no bureaucracy. In fact, you don't even need insurance to dive into these life-saving medications. Scan the QR code there now. All Family Pharmacy has you covered online with medication usually arriving within a couple of days or so. It's fast, private, reliable. A pharmacy that still believes in your right to try and to have affordable off-counter options that are generics and that, quite frankly, many pharmacies simply do not provide. This is the American way. Freedom of choice, all brought to you during this Advent season. 10% off now, code RSBN10, your must-have medications for the holiday season at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. And while you're taking care of your health, make sure that your savings are set at Monetary Gold. Wealth Security Preservation. Grab the Presidential Gold Guide today. Call today. Do not delay. 888-617-7994. Again, 888-617-7994. Ask how you can eliminate your IRA fees permanently for life and protect what matters most. It's RSBNforthegold.com. Diversification of your savings, your retirement, your pensions, everything you worked hard for. Paper money just won't cut it. And with inflation now going down, but still being on the minds of countless Americans, the purchasing power of the dollar going down by 40% over the course of the last 2 decades. In fact, just simply making $100,000 a year, if that is your income, you're now considered lower middle class by many scales. So how are you to diversify with an economy that's sometimes built against you? Gold and silver, they have a bull market right now. They've been only going up ever since January 20th. Get in on the game that has lasted over 5,000 years of human history, to be frank. RSBNforthegold.com. It's there for you. And with these private plans, no two plans are the same. It does not shape the same family in the same way. So perhaps you want that first property or generational wealth. Well, there's no one better than Monetary Gold for wealth preservation, security, and all of the above. RSBNforthegold.com. 888-617-7994. Call today. Do not delay as we await the Christmas tree lighting, the national holiday anniversary that really kicks it off. We had the Capitol Hill tree come on in, but this is really the office of the First Lady shining a bright light on the holidays. And the theme is home is where the heart is, as Melania Trump displaying gorgeous ornaments, trees, and festive decor within the People's House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. This will be right across the way outside of Lafayette Square. So we look forward to that ceremonial tree lighting that happens on an annual basis with the president, the first lady, and members of the cabinet. The pre-programming to begin at the top of the hour. And at 6 o'clock, we can expect to see the first couple. We were joined by Ashley Brassfield of the Daily Caller just moments ago to talk about a number of different issues, including those SNAP benefits you might have heard about going up into Minneapolis, Minnesota. Really a problem since the Barack Hussein Obama administration, and former Governor Mark Dayton of Minnesota dating back to 2012, and now we know it's the failed vice presidential candidate himself, Governor Mike Waltz, in a lot of heat, or Tim Waltz, excuse me, in a lot of heat regarding the Somalian refugee program that, again, dated all the way back to the Obama administration. ICE is on the ground in Minneapolis. They're also down in New Orleans, Louisiana, as they are making America safe again. But if that is ready, Mr. Director, we could play our exclusive interview with the one, the only, one of the best reporters in all of the federal city. It's Ashley Brassfield from the Daily Caller. From the Daily Caller, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to RSBN's live desk. It's Ashley Brassfield from the Daily Caller. Ashley, what's going on between Speaker Johnson and Elise Stefanik, the great congresswoman from New York and running for governor as well? But it seems as if President Trump had to hold a National Defense Authorization Act phone call to see there's some disputing going on between the speaker and between Ms. Stefanik.
Yeah, I think this caught everyone by surprise a little bit. Elise Stefanik is a very big Trump ally, obviously Speaker Johnson as well. But, there's been flames even between Marjorie Taylor Greene before she announced that she will no longer be running for Congress in the upcoming election. So two women in the GOP House of Representatives that are kind of going against Johnson. And I think it came as a big surprise. Elise Stefanik also, of course, being a former nominee for the UN ambassador prior to pulling her name out. And she took also a leadership position after her name being pulled. But, this Defense Authorization Act, it's the Pentagon bill. That's the biggest bill at the end of the year to, talk about the funding that's going to go towards that, agency in general. So, she kind of called out Johnson in a post on X that came as a surprise for everyone and has done a few interviews even prior where she kind of continues to make some digs at the Speaker of the House. But yes, President Trump acting as the moderator allegedly on this phone call that was had between the two of them. They seem to work it out. She kind of got what she wanted here. And but it seems like this feud is not going anywhere. Maybe it's a tactic due to the fact she's running for governor and will no longer be in the House of Representatives. It's not really clear yet.
And we're down to 2 vacancies now for the House of Representatives. So we have Texas 18, Sylvester Turner, may God rest his soul, passing away earlier this year. And that's a very gerrymandered Houston-esque district right in the southeast of the Lone Star State, so likely to be Democrat. But Mickey Sherrill's seat, she's the governor-elect of the Garden State of New Jersey. That should be relatively competitive come the April 16th, 2026 special election. But any more talk of resignations? Because, again, at 220 now, a very thin majority for the Republicans.
Very thin majority. Of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene's special election is, I think, being scheduled as we speak by Governor Kemp currently. We saw the race in the Tennessee 7th District, of course, decided with Matt Van Epps. The speaker is trying to swear him in as soon as possible, it seems, to keep that majority strong. I think this is a big push for the GOP. President Trump's been very vocal about this going into 2026. But yeah, I think the GOP has a lot of work to do. Of course, that affordability buzzword is the continuing, thing that keeps sticking around. And I think they have to key in on that. I was at the Republican Study Committee New Media Row the other day, and this was a topic that I brought up to multiple lawmakers. And a lot of them were referencing the big, beautiful bill, but we have to remember that was signed back in July. And of course, with the economy, I think Americans really do want that short-term gratification here. But with the economy, that's not always the case. So hopefully, like in the first term, we saw more, gains in 2018 after the first year of the President Trump being elected. Maybe we'll see the same effect here going into the 2026 election, where that will kind of calm down and Democrats can't kind of go off of that affordability just like the Republicans.
And by so many scales and economists, it's now considered lower middle class if you're earning around 100K. That was never the case in America. Now, with GDP and rate to inflation and things like that, things do change, although we do have many billions and billions, perhaps trillions coming in from the Trump tariffs, as long as the Supreme Court rules in favor of that. I don't see why they should not, given the precedent that other presidents of the United States, in fact, many of them have used tariffs in the past. But Ashley, as you're seeing this on Capitol Hill and doing such great reporting, is the affordability and the insurance question just cliche, or is it something that's really coming up for most Americans? And on the other hand, are we just addicted to debt and credit, even in our own households? Because we've seen a lot of people, they're traveling for the holidays, they're going out shopping. Maybe it's the plastic credit cards that we need to kind of be a bit more frugal about.
So yes, I think we are completely dedicated to, the debt aspect of this, but I don't think there's a mystique about this affordability and even the, the insurance Obama premiums that are coming up expiring. This is affecting people domestically and at home. And I think people need to see some palpable returns into their pockets, and that's not what's being seen right now. I think you have to really worry about Gen Z, who President Trump did win in 2024, especially among the young men. But like you said, I think the medium house income for middle class people is, like you said, $100,000. That's not just starting salary if you are 24 years old and doing these entry level jobs. Which is really unfortunate. So I think for the hope of the country and the future and being able to have families and live the American dream in the American way, you have to focus on that and bring forth things that are actually palpable. I know the healthcare premiums, they're currently being debated in the Senate. I believe Senator Cassidy, Rand Paul, and even a few others have brought forth some solutions. But, the deadline's approaching very fast. And, it doesn't seem like there's anything staple to go off of. I don't think they can completely repeal the Obamacare things. But this was a talking point even Marjorie Taylor Greene brought up. And she kind of saw where the puck was going early on this, no matter if you agree with her or you don't. But this was an issue that was going to come up. And I think she read it right here. And I think that's going to be a focus, especially in places that are rural where they do have Obamacare. It's a concern for Americans. Affordability is definitely a concern. But you have to have a messaging that's going to, appeal to the broad, group of people, especially Gen Z, who I think it is affecting most in this case.
Ultimately, as Secretary Kennedy has mentioned, it's a national security issue if people are not getting married, not having children for a country as large as ours. And for Miss Greene, her district in Rome, Georgia, that 14th there in the northwest part of the Peach State is really considered the exurbs outside of Atlanta. And those are becoming more popular. There's building happening in and around there. And even though the post-COVID economy, so many people can take those remote days or solely work remotely, people have to live by these big cities in order to make their living in many cases. So something to definitely address in 2026 for both parties. Now, you also wrote about an exclusive. Nancy Mace, the congresswoman from South Carolina, dropping a bill to crack down on food stamp fraudsters stealing your tax dollars. Tell us more about this.
Yeah, so we saw this issue really in Minnesota, where many of the Somali community were abusing this. I think over $1 billion were sent back over to Somalia to terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab, which has links to Al-Qaeda, actually. So this should make American taxpayers extremely mad, I think, in a lot of ways. But this bill specifically introduced by Nancy Mace will make EBT cards have a photograph image for those who will be able to use the benefits, and it would require stores to check those EBT cards to make sure it matches like a regular driver's license photo ID when you're having to buy alcohol or any other medication at the store. So it would require that for them to be able to use the SNAP benefits here and hopefully prevent a lot of this, fraud, waste, and abuse, what's happening with SNAP benefits in many of these communities across the United States. It's not just in Minnesota, it's across the country. And I think it's being abused when you're using taxpayer funds. I think people want to know that they're being used appropriately. And this is kind of, like I said, I think the DOJ, going back to the DOJ aspect of that waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer dollars, that can be eliminated pretty easily.
And ICE now on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and also down in New Orleans, Louisiana, to see if they can help with any of those aspects. But good to see that there's actually congressmen and congresswomen who are addressing this, including Representative Anna Paulina Luna, who really wants to look down a crackdown on the insider trading that Speaker Emeritus Nancy Pelosi seemed to be a champion at. And former Congressman Matt Gaetz would take us on a little tour during his tenure of the worst perpetrators, both on the Republican and Democrat side. Do you think Congress can ultimately police itself in this situation? Because the thing that crushes me about this, Ashley, is the fact that Martha Stewart actually got in serious legal trouble for doing the exact same thing. So if you're a private citizen, you can't do this. But if you're on the inside, you literally can inside trade within the halls of Congress.
Right. Well, I think it's important to realize it is legal currently, but you're right. Can they police themselves? Tim Burchett and Paulina Luna being very vocal on this subject, but you're right. It's both sides of the aisle. I think you can't get away from that. There's ETFs that have been created to follow their stock portfolios. It's kind of the running joke with Nancy Pelosi being able to, double or triple the usual returns on her stock trades. But I don't, within the party specifically, I don't think it's a popular standpoint. And, that's the risk of PR here with many of these members. Can you be trusted when you're doing these things, even though you're saying all the right things? I think that's for a lot of them what the, the authenticity that is there, not there sometimes when it comes to this issue, but that's the PR risk that they pose. But it is interesting. I think there's many members that have decided not to do this. I know Tim Burchett personally does not have a DC apartment. He actually sleeps in his congressional office when he's in DC. So I think you have to take a look at the people you're sending up to DC and if they're willing to, act as a member and serve the American people, and you can decide whether this actually serves the American people. I think many Americans can call their congressman and voice their support or non-support, really, in this case, for that specific issue.
This is kind of an out of left field question, but many have claimed across the country we should have more members of Congress so that we could do just that, actually get to know our members of Congress, because they usually represent 700,000 plus, but in some districts, you're close to 1 million. I know down in Texas, one of our dear friends there represents 935,000 people. So it's a little bit out of the scale between that 700 to 800 mark. If we doubled the number, they could perhaps represent 350,000 or so. What are some of your thoughts on that, Ashley?
Yeah, I think that we're in a changing time. The population has grown. I think this ended up with the primary specifically being changed about 50 years ago. It's my understanding. So I think taking a relook at the system wouldn't be problematic. I think they would have some fighting from Washington, D.C. Members that have been in D.C. for a long time. That's for sure. But I think constituents should speak up. I mean, the American people, that's who they represent, and they need to be listened to for sure. So if that would gain traction, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think it would be a great idea to throw around. I think Washington really does need some new ideas sometimes. They call it the swamp for a reason. So why not,
And with 36 members of the freshman caucus on the Republican side, I'm sure with all these new maps across many different states, we might be having some fresh faces in the halls of Congress come January 3rd of 2027. It's Ashley Brassfield from the Daily Caller, our eyes and ears on Capitol Hill. Thanks for joining us again. Kalshi.com/RSBN, a great way to trade and bet on the biggest questions facing the United States of America. And will President Trump pardon Steve Bannon or Chang-Peng Zhao or Roger Ver, amongst others? We saw the pardoning of Congressman Henry Cuellar, a Democrat from Texas, who actually bucked his party, who saw what was happening at the southern border, what was happening specifically in his district, once these districts right along the Texas-Mexican border so blue, but now turning red in an aggressive manner because, as President Trump addressed it way back on the Golden Escalator in 2015, it's the immigration problem that needs to be solved first and foremost. Will Bitcoin hit 150K before March Madness of next year? We'll see what happens at Kalshi.com/RSBN. Even the question of who will be in the Super Bowl. Could it be my Chicago Bears? We'd love to see that happen as number one in the NFC North at 9-3. So it's sports, music, politics, culture, and much, much more at Kalshi.com/RSBN. If you like what you see here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, feel free to donate at rsbnetwork.com/donate or text RSBN to 801-801. We also have an address for check or money order. 1550-1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. The loveliest village on the plains, that's Auburn, Alabama. 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. It is a joy to be with you as your go-to live desk as you catch live views, recorded from last year in 2024 on the campaign trail. That was so much fun. One that will not soon be forgotten in American history, where you made Donald Trump the 47th president of the United States, J.D. Vance the 50th vice president, and the 119th Congress, which its days are running shorter a bit as they are nonstop on the campaign trail. 2-year terms in the House, 6-year terms on the Senate side, and of course right there, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the second term of President Donald John Trump in this golden era. At 4:48 Eastern, we'll take a quick commercial break for sponsorships here on the right side of history as we gear up about 10 minutes from now, the pre-programming to President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony just a little bit over 1 hour from now. Don't change that dial. You're on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN in the prime time. President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony just over an hour from now. If you're just joining us, I'm Robert McNeely. Always great to be with you here on the right side of history. As a programming note, tomorrow we'll have a special edition of The Voice of Reason, as it usually runs at 6 o'clock in the evening on Thursdays. But this Christmas tree lighting, very, very important. Only happens but once a year outside of the White House, and a wonderful time to be with the President and the First Lady, working overtime in this holiday season to make America great again. As it's very true, according to the White House, there is something wrong with Governor Tim Walz in a very cold and snowy day up in Minnesota, but it's almost as if hell has frozen over in Minnesota with the former failed vice presidential candidate. Do you remember his debate with our now illustrious Vice President J.D. Vance? Well, sometimes I just do stupid stuff. Well, that's Governor Tim Walz for you, as it cost taxpayers $1 billion, Minnesota becoming a hub of fraudulent money laundering activity, where refugees from Somalia are completely taking over the once great state. Now, there is nowhere that it's more evident of illegal immigration, and where ICE agents are currently on the ground in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the incompetent, shocking fraud of the deeply disturbed Democrat Tim Walz, the Attorney General as well there, a scandal they turned their backs on. And this is really exposed by social services and those who would traditionally vote Democrat within the great state of Minnesota. 78 of the 86 individuals charged so far are from Somali ancestry. Democrats allowed a $1+ billion heist to take place in Minnesota. Dozens of individuals, largely of East African descent, looted taxpayers out of $1 billion that was intended for child food assistance in what amounted to the country's largest pandemic relief fraud scheme. And on another network, Ilhan Omar was simply shoveling it to the side and stating that though the proper protections weren't put into place during that time when COVID was happening. Oh, just a mistake by the government. What's new? The fraud involved was a massive, complex network of nonprofits and affiliates largely run through the Somali community. Nonprofits tied to the Somali community claimed to have fed tens of thousands of non-existent hungry children, claimed to have provided services to non-existent homeless, and claimed to have provided therapy for non-existent autistic Somali children. Kickbacks were paid, lavish lifestyles were funded, and money was sent overseas, some of it even allegedly funneled to a terror group. Now, the massive scandal unfolded on Waltz's watch, and he did absolutely nothing about it. All enforcement has been at the federal and not at the state level. In fact, the state's cowardly Democrat officials were reluctant to act, tolerating, if not tactically allowing the fraud and ignoring whistleblowers to avoid political backlash among the Somali community and accusations of course, racism, something that's thrown around all too often in 2025. President Trump is taking action, though. According to the White House, the Trump administration is terminating temporary protected status for Somalis, indefinitely halting migration from third world countries, re-examining green cards for every alien from every country of concern, pausing all asylum decisions, and more. All are part of its relentless effort to ensure migrants that remain are a net positive on our society. We dive deep into this issue, actually, on The Voice of Reason tomorrow night with special guest, the CEO of MyPillow, Mike Lindell, who might be doing something rather cool in the next few days, weeks, and months surrounding the 2026 midterms in an effort to continue to make America great again. But this is, again, a program dating back to Barack Hussein Obama and former Governor Mark Dayton of Minnesota, where you had this refugee program bring in Somali immigrants, many of whom are illegal. And now we have a situation where people took advantage of the system. As in case you missed it, just speaking with Ashley Brassfield of the Daily Caller, who's done amazing work on that specifically with an exclusive that GOP Representative Nancy Mace of the Palmetto State, South Carolina, dropping a bill to crack down on food stamp fraudsters directly stealing your tax dollars. I mean, it's really a travesty, and how stupid are we as a nation to have allowed it to happen with the SNAP frauds that will directly relook at the electronic benefit transfer cards that went into this community. We are a generous people, and in this season of giving, it's important to remember that, and important to give, whether it be through church or other public entities, private and public, wherever we make our mark in our communities, even abroad. And no one does it better. No one more generous. No people more generous than the American people. There's no question about that. We saw that this week with the Dell Corporation and Michael and Susan specifically, as in the question of American politics over the course of the last 2 decades with Barack Hussein Obama, the one who wanted to tax the rich. You hear all of this from crazy Bernie Sanders, although some of the biggest donations they're getting are from the very elite, the very wealthy, who seem to be funneling and funding the modern Democrat Party. But this kind of fraud should not happen in the United States of America, and we'll see again where this story ultimately leads. But there is media bias out there, and that's why the new media is so strong and so active in finding those real stories and telling you the truth. That's why we here at this live desk simply bring you to the action. That's why you'll see the entire event tonight. We won't chop it and edit it and then give you a different version of it. Now, we'll show you everything so you can make up your mind in a situation where everyone should probably enjoy tonight, but I'm sure somewhere out there in the American ethos, or abroad, you might get a story of, I'm insulted because the president said Merry Christmas. Well, it's Merry Christmas once again, as it should be celebrated, as Hanukkah will be celebrated, as Kwanzaa will be celebrated. And it's okay to say happy or merry and to provide goodwill and glad tidings, as our friend Dennis Prager always said, as a Jew in America, I don't mind having someone saying Merry Christmas to me. It literally means good tidings, to wish someone else well and to bring them joy and comfort in a season where it's remembered. And all too often throughout the year, we sometimes do forget that. But there is no question that this American nation and the people that inhabit it, for the most part, are the most generous in the world. And that's why the White House launching this week a call to action against media bias and sending in tips. The White House recently launched a media bias portal as a service to truth and transparency. Its purpose is to combat the baseless lies, purposefully combating those that we're omitting context or even text in general. If you go back to the fake J6 committee, you remember that with Benny Thompson, who wanted to remove Secret Service protection for then former President Donald Trump. I wonder why he wanted to do that. Maybe he knows more. And Liz Cheney, the terrible former representative from the cowboy state of Wyoming, purposefully admitted text from Donald Trump's speech on January 6th of 2021, talking about peacefully and patriotically going to the Capitol. Also, to leave the area after the incidents that occurred on that day. And sadly, some networks carried that narrative to try to inflict their opinion and call it fact and truth, and therefore confuse countless Americans. Now, this media bias portal is targeting outright left-wing lunacy of fake news media, a tall task that demands the help of everyone who believes in facts and accuracy over fake news. That's why the White House is calling on everyday Americans to support the truth and hold the fake news accountable by visiting whitehouse.gov/bias tips. whitehouse.gov/bias tips. Anyone can submit biased or undeniably false articles, and valid submissions will be used to keep the media bias portal updated. So-called journalists have made it impossible to identify every false and misleading story, which is why help from the American people is essential. The days of the fake news media controlling the narrative outright are over. Fake anonymous sources and willful bias are over. If the legacy media won't honor their responsibility to accurately inform the public, we, the American people, will do just that. So submit a tip to whitehouse.gov/bias tips. Again, that's whitehouse.gov/bias tips, as we look forward to an all-American celebration of the most wonderful time of the year in this Advent season to kick off the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony less than 1 hour from now, a pre-program momentarily away featuring your favorite president and your favorite first lady to light that national Christmas tree right outside of the White House. In the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial break for sponsors. Stick with us here on the right side of history.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. You can scan that QR code now, RSBN10. That is the code, easy to remember, for 10% off. This is ivermectin, hydrochloroquine, antibiotics that will save you and yours from bacterial and viral infections, NAD+, and much, much more. 200 essential medications and emergency medical kits, the meds you trust delivered to your door. Welcome back to Right Side Broadcasting Network in the prime time. I'm Robert McNeely as we get ready for a celebration unlike any other, the White House National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony featuring the President of the United States and the First Lady and Miss Melania Trump. She has really been working overtime on the progress in Russia and Ukraine to help secure children who were ostracized and even displaced as a result of that terrible war. And even in the last month, somewhere around 25,000 Ukrainian soldiers even dying in the process. President Trump highlighting that from the cabinet meeting this week, but from the office of the First Lady, who organizes really all of these Christmas celebrations, including the amazing decor that you might have seen inside of the People's House at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The First Lady mentioning the progress happening in the Ukraine Children's Reunification Initiative. She was directly on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin regarding this just a few short weeks ago. 7 additional children, 6 boys and 1 girl have been reunited with their families in the Ukraine. And the following is a statement from the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, regarding the humanitarian efforts of all parties participating in the initiative. My dedication to guaranteeing the safe return of children to their families in this region is unwavering. I commend the leadership and persistent diplomacy of the Russia and Ukraine in the pursuit of the reunification of children and families in the region. Their bridge building has created a tangible, collaborative environment, an anchor for optimism. This cooperation will continue to drive the process forward through the next phase. And in close partnership, my representative and I have provided humanitarian support from the United States to enhance the reunification initiative's outcome. My hope is that ultimately our collective efforts will lead to broader regional stability. So the White House really working through the office of the First Lady to ensure that that happens, on top of 8 wars, 8 conflicts solved by this president and this executive office alone, with today even more peace deals arranged between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. So those African nations who have been at war together, gosh, for countless generations. If you look back to World War II, actually the bloodiest conflict in the world that many mainstream outlets would not even touch. And it's good to see that those on that continent working together for the betterment of society. Now, still some of those areas deeply, deeply war-torn. If you look at Sierra Leone and Nigeria, especially with the Christian genocide happening there, we must, at the very least, pray for our brothers and sisters in harm's way in conflicts against Boko Haram and radical Islamic terrorism that still very much exists. And we remember them during this Advent, Christmas, and Hanukkah seasons. Now, Mr. Director, if we have that footage of President Trump leaving that historic meeting at the Trump Initiative, would be fun to play. I'm being told we do not have that at the moment. Just to give you a little bit of a bird's eye view of what it looks like from the South Lawn when the president re-enters the White House. It's fun in the motorcade, and it's always a great view of people that might even be jogging. They were jogging today in Washington, D.C. on a brisk day, but clear sunshine happening there. And if you live there, you might see a motorcade or two go on by. And then in addition to that, the Trump initiative, the peace initiative that has been such a staple of this administration, making clear and known in our earlier broadcast with the two African nations there, not far from the White House. This has been the mission of this president, to make that peace a top priority, a lasting peace. And in many of these cases, the United States simply does not need to get involved. But as Secretary of State Marco Rubio has mentioned on countless occasions, including from the cabinet meeting, the 9th one, by the way, and final one for the year, as each member of the cabinet granting each other a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas season, giving those well wishes to one another in a cabinet that's been quite extraordinary and perhaps the best in American history. That if the foreign policy that exists out there is not of use or not important to the United States, it won't be something that will be addressed by this Secretary of State nor the President of the United States. But when it comes in direct conflict, when it does matter to the United States, the world has become a much smaller place, given our digital footprint, given our technology. We have seen how the use of tariffs, the dialogue with friends and foe, has led to complete unbridled change across the world. And just some of those highlights being the Gulf states, from UAE to Qatar to the United Arab Emirates, as I mentioned, Saudi Arabia. My goodness, they have been such a great partner for us in the region, with the Crown Prince and Prime Minister recently visiting President Trump at the White House when it comes to military cooperation, sales, and keeping the region safe. Never has it been a situation like we've seen from post-Abraham Accords, where you have Muslim-majority nations joining Israel and condemning the actions of Iran. President Trump ending that 12-day war with the use of B-2 bombers who went undetected into the country, followed by Tomahawk missiles to strike at the centrifuges and the nuclear program from the Iranian regime, and the mullahs and the ayatollahs that seek to cause harm in the surrounding region. How about the visit to the United Kingdom and Scotland, precisely with Trump Turnberry? It's a foreign trip of President Trump on his own property, not only to reopen the extraordinary golf course there in the heart of Scotland, but to meet with the United Kingdom for more trade deals, to meet with the European Union, and ultimately to help restructure NATO to get 5% of the countries paying their fair share, each one paying that 5% threshold, with the exception of Spain. And billions of dollars coming into this country thanks to those trade deals. That's not to mention what took place in the Indo-Pacific and the meetings in Malaysia between Thailand and Cambodia, once enemies, and those two kingdoms coming together for trade deals with the United States, South Korea, and Japan. The President of the United States has displayed the art of the deal in public and private rooms, and done so in an extraordinary way to keep this country safe. And then having that 2-hour meeting with Xi Jinping, which will lead to a meeting in China in the new year. Thank you to angelpaste.com, the miracle cream that keeps on giving, a great stocking stuffer this year, especially with the cold temperatures and the dry air. I use this every day to keep my skin fresh and healthy. There's also the orange option, vitamin C infused, also non-GMO, no chemicals. And then the facial spray. It's a great option as well at angelpaste.com. Experience the miracle out of Spring, Texas. And that is angelpaste.com. They're right off the Gulf of America. It's a lovely place to live there in the Lone Star State. And give them a try this holiday season in case you haven't. And I'm sure that it will be a good stocking stuffer, especially for the ones who are tough to shop for. Angelpaste.com. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. And you're going to love this. This is a great one, especially for those who really don't know who to shop for. CovePure.com/RSBN. The holiday sale, $250 off right now. The leading reverse osmosis machine that removes 99.9% of the particles, the fluorides, the chemicals, the agricultural runoff that's in the water, lead and bleach and terrible things, contaminants that JAMA Pediatrics actually found could cause a loss of 2 points or more in your IQ, especially for those young students and children of yours that might like to drink out of the hose during the summertime. Definitely a bad idea. I want to walk you through what this machine does. It's no bigger than a coffee maker at home, so very convenient. As you see the lovely lady pouring the water in there, you immediately get the hot or cold or warm water, whatever temperature you seek to have. And I'm a big tea drinker, especially coffee, but every once in a while I have a nice cup of tea, especially this time of year, and it gets annoying to wait at the stove and wait for the water to warm up. This does it instantly. So protect what matters most. Drink pure, live pure. You know exactly where that reverse osmosis clear wave technology is cleaning that water. It's at covepure.com/RSBN. I also like this because it's great for if you're renting. You don't have to drill the holes or put the tubes in and connect all of that and then cause an issue when you move out of your apartment. What you see is what you get there. You put in the reverse osmosis system and voila, there you go. It's the leading one in the entire system. covepure.com/RSBN. It's a smart way to do things during this holiday season. Take advantage now of $250 off of that at covepure.com/RSBN as President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting at the top of the hour, roughly 45 minutes from now. As I was talking about before, the motorcade. You might not have had this glimpse of a bird eye view thanks to the White House pool cam. You can get a little glimpse of what it's like. President Trump leaving that peace initiative with the DCR and Rwanda today in Washington, D.C., heading back to the White House. So a bird's eye view re-entering the White House earlier today, President Trump, as he prepares the First Lady to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony at the top of the hour. And we're always happy to be with you here on Right Side Broadcasting Network at the live desk. Again, a programming note, normally the Voice of Reason at 6 o'clock on Thursdays. We will be hosting that at a time to be determined for tomorrow on Friday, December 5th. So don't miss the action there, as it is a gorgeous view of the White House tonight on a brisk Christmas season evening, as we saw the president re-entering the south lawn of the White House. The East Room renovations leading to the grand ballroom that will be close to twice the size of the main residence you're looking at right now, which is at 5,500 square feet. The ballroom will be around that 9,000 square foot measurement. So we look forward to that in the future. A great place to host dignitaries and diplomatic relations for the commander-in-chief and for those who will succeed him in the future. Now, Representative Jamie Raskin of Maryland demanding reports from CBS News, interesting enough, alleging the network improperly edited an interview to appease President Donald Trump. But we know that Mr. Raskin has generally been on the wrong side of history as one of the impeachment managers. Actually, I think he was an impeachment manager on 2 different occasions for both fake impeachments. And especially that second one, you want to think about how ridiculous that was, because President Trump had left office after the 2020 election, and they still wasted taxpayer money to hold an impeachment trial to attempt to invalidate him from office. With all of the lawfare and what took place over the course of the last decade, it's really remarkable that some of these people continue to get reelected as they continue to lie to the American people. Now, more than 1 million layoffs, a concern growing as new data showing job cuts surpassing 1 million this year. So the highest level since the pandemic in 2020. And there has been some concern in certain stories, especially those new to the job market, having just graduated, that they're not exactly being employed at the exact type of job they went to school for, or even being underemployed in that process. Perhaps will be a very large topic come the 2026 midterms for both the Republican and Democrat parties, and maybe the Libertarians, the Greens, and those independents pursuing office, with all of these newly redrawn maps, whether it be North Carolina to what's being challenged in court from the Proposal 50 out in the Golden State of California, backed by Governor Newsom and having won a majority back on November 4th of this year during election season. But we will watch all of that extremely closely coming into what really was jump-started by Texas legally, mind you, redrawing their maps and having that authority. And really being amplified by Illinois and Governor J.B. Pritzker, who's attempting to yet again redraw the maps, although he went on the Colbert Show on late night and said a kindergartner drew the maps. And it's really ironic because dating back to his first one in 2018, he actually agreed to a Fair Maps initiative. It was a bipartisan effort that got the required signatures to get on the ballot and was voted on by a majority of Illinois residents. And before he was governor, pledging that he would work for fair maps, to not gerrymander the map, something that both parties do across the country. But the Democrats have quite the art of the deal when it comes to gerrymandering districts, especially in the state of Illinois. And once again, like so many other things, Governor J.B. Pritzker breaking his promise on that with some of the most ridiculous looking maps in all of the country. And when you look at the entire map of the populace of Illinois, there is a lot of red there. There are a lot of counties supporting President Trump. In fact, the vast majority. The problem is the population, roughly 85% of it, lives in Cook County and the Collier County, 6 counties out of 102 total. So you have really one big city-state, as I like to refer to it as, Chicago, Illinois, that dominates the state politics and ultimately the chief executive there in Illinois. Now, there's a Pentagon lawsuit that the New York Times is now suing the Defense Department, claiming new press restrictions allegedly violate the First Amendment. But as you've seen, the new media, people that did not necessarily have access to the government to give you this unbridled access that you see in the new media. We're leading the way on that here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, bringing you a live desk that gives you the full press conferences, the full speeches, and everything in between so you can make up your mind. What would be wrong with that? It seems as if the big corporate elites, or the so-called elites, want to keep hold of their power brokers there in the federal city. But a new day, a new dawn, a new administration that has been the most transparent in American history. Are you more comfy or classy? We saw Secretary Duffy earlier in the broadcast talking about FIFA securing the subways to the train systems and ultimately America's airports, and to fight back against trafficking as we welcome the world for FIFA 2026. It's going to be a soccer competition unlike any other. Cristiano Ronaldo at the White House recently with President Trump to celebrate all of the successes in America and the Western world. But Secretary Duffy also talking about that before the Thanksgiving holiday. Is it important for you to be comfy or classy? Send in your opinions, feedback at rsbn.tv. I think people should, you don't have to necessarily dress up in a suit, but dress a little bit nicer. Maybe wear a collared shirt. Maybe how about not pajamas to the airport? Because when you dress a bit nicer, you act a little bit nicer. At least that's what my sociologists and psychologist friends tell me. And I think there's some truth to that. In case you missed it, Secretary Duffy addressing these concerns and more. FIFA 2026, we're getting ready for a star-studded bash, but we want to make sure America is safe in the process. And he had some thoughts to share earlier on in the week.
How great is this? We have Kobe here emceeing our event. He is a legend. A National Soccer Hall of Famer, a three-time World Cup player, Fox Sports analyst. So, Kobe, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing this for us. Again, bringing so much energy in a week of great soccer energy with the FIFA draw tomorrow. So we are truly grateful for that. Hey, everybody. Yeah. Welcome to DOT. Thank you all for coming. Listen, we are excited. Tomorrow is going to be a great day at the Kennedy Center. President Trump is going to be there. Thousands of people are going to be in attendance. But around the world, 1 billion people are going to tune in to watch the draw at the Kennedy Center. So we're excited that we're kicking the event off today here at DOT. We're excited about FIFA. The president is excited about FIFA because it's a great sporting event, but it's going to come to America on our 250th anniversary. And again, in America, we love sports. We love to celebrate our birthdays. So to combine those two things together is going to be absolutely fantastic. On top of that, at the White House, we're going to have the first ever UFC fight as well. So it's going to be a great celebration of America's 250th birthday. As we look to these games, right, we're going to have 6 million people that are going to come into the United States to watch these games. So I've talked with State, I've talked with Homeland, we've partnered together. The president has given this directive. If you're watching around the world, we're going to make travel seamless for you as you come into the country. We're going to make it as easy as possible so you can come in and enjoy the great World Cup event that's going to go off. Some people have wondered, well, we're here at DOT. Why are we at DOT? What do you have to do with FIFA and the World Cup and soccer? I don't want to overstate it, but I think we may be more important than the coaches, the refs, maybe the players. I'm not sure. We have a big role in making sure that this event goes off really well. And so just want to talk about that a little bit, because people move throughout the country during the World Cup on planes, trains, and automobiles. And so first, we have the FAA. The FAA knows we're going to have a lot of international travel that comes into the country. And then as people get to the U.S., a lot of people are going to travel by airplane between the host cities. We are clearing the skies, clearing the decks, making sure air travel is going to be seamless. The FAA is already working on that. The one thing we can't control is the weather, so if we have weather issues that pop up, I don't have any control on that, but the FAA is working to make sure air travel goes incredibly well. Rail, we're prepping our tracks, making sure we have enough cars as fans go between host cities, making sure that our rail runs on time, our rail is safe. All that work is happening right now as we prep for a massive number of fans coming into the country. Motor carriers, incredibly important as people travel between host cities on buses, making sure we have buses that are safe, making sure we have drivers that are vetted. But almost more important than that, as our fans go to the games, we need to make sure that we have enough beer and hot dogs. And it's our motor carriers that make sure that we are well stocked with all of the accoutrements for an enjoyable game. They also bring in all of the equipment that allows our networks to broadcast this event worldwide. And so that's the role that motor carriers play. One of the biggest parts of what we do, though, is transit and making sure that our subway systems, our buses, we have enough cars, we have enough buses. We actually bring in additional assets to make sure we can move people seamlessly from the hotels in which they're staying, getting them to the games, getting them there on time, getting them there safely. All happens at DOT. And so it just doesn't happen by us, making it an afterthought. We've been thinking about this for over a year. How do we make these games great? How do we showcase America to showcase then the World Cup? And so I want to thank the whole DOT team who's here. Again, we have consistent meetings. How are we doing? How is everyone working together? And I feel very confident as a secretary that this is going to go off incredibly well. I do want to take a moment, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for you all, but one of the issues that we see that I think is it's a tragedy. There's a lot of human trafficking in the U.S. but around the world, and when big sporting events like this happen, it is a time when more human trafficking takes place, and we want to do all we can to make sure we stop these young women who are being trafficked. And I want to take a moment, I was just talking about transit. The New Jersey transit team has gone above and beyond to make sure they're running ads, heightening the knowledge of their travelers to understand the signs of someone who may be trafficked. And so the DOT today, U.S. DOT, is going to award for their great work New Jersey Transit an additional $50,000 as a recognition of the work that they're doing to stop human trafficking and to maybe put a few more resources into that effort to make sure people see the signs. Again, we want to enjoy these games. It's a great time to celebrate. It's a great time for countries to rally around their teams, but we also want to make sure that if there are bad things happening, that we're doing all we can to stop it. So to New Jersey Transit, we thank them for all that they're doing. So again, I want to welcome you all to DOT. Thank you for being here. I want you all to know that, again, we are working incredibly hard. And it's not just us, again, though we probably have the most important part of this. Don't tell Marco Rubio or Kristi Noem I said that, but we do. But we all are working together. And what I love is that our president, you go to the Oval Office, he's had a FIFA trophy sitting in the Oval for months on end. He is excited about the games and has given a directive to all his cabinet secretaries. Make sure this is seamless. Make sure this is great. Make sure this is the greatest sporting event for the World Cup ever. And so that is the mission, and that's what we're trying to deliver on. I'm a hockey guy. I'm sorry, Kobe, not necessarily a soccer guy. It was before my time in northern Wisconsin. So I'm going to give you the 1980 Olympic hockey team, Herb Brooks, whose famous quote was, "Great moments are born from great opportunity." Gentlemen, we have a great opportunity coming this summer. Let's maximize it. Let's love it. Let's have a blast. Let's have a ball. Let's stay safe. And let's make sure the U.S. wins. With that, Kobe, I'll give it back to you. Thank you.
And this holiday season is a time to remember faith and family, freedom, and things that matter most here in the United States and really abroad in this battle for Western civilization. And one online pharmacy is taking care of just that, your health during this time of year as we travel and get together with friends and family. Taking responsibility for your health is part of that freedom, and trying generics that are off-label and that other pharmacies simply will not prescribe, you have every right to that as a most favored nation status, as the right to try, as this administration continues to push those policies forward through Health and Human Services amongst the entire cabinet as well. RSBN 10 is your code for your must-have medications this holiday season. 10% off. RSBN 10 is the code. Scan the QR code as well for all of these life-saving options, from Tamiflu to antibiotics to antivirals, and ivermectin, NAD+, methylene blue, hydrochloroquine, and much, much more. This is why All Family Pharmacy is leading the way as an online pharmacy committed to you, the American people. They make it easy to get medications you need safely and securely, delivered right to your door, and a U.S.-based doctor reviews the order, a licensed physician, so you do not have to worry there. And again, no red tape, no bureaucracy, simply these life-saving medications, over 300 of them, including emergency medical kits, coming right to your door. No waiting rooms, no delays, just peace of mind and the great availability and service from a pharmacy that puts patriots like you first. This holiday season, take care of your family and don't get sick so you can enjoy the holiday season. 10% off right now. RSBN 10, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Monetary gold for wealth and security preservation savings. We know that the dollar has declined in value and purchasing power, specifically by 40% into the hole over the last 2 decades. 2 banks failing alone this year, and during Barack Hussein Obama's tenure, nearly 500 banks failing back then. So grab the complimentary Presidential Gold Guide and ask how you can eliminate those IRA fees permanently and for the rest of your life. RSBN for thegold.com, 888-617-7994. Scott Cheney, the Senior Portfolio Manager out of Los Angeles, California, can help walk you through all of this. You might recognize him from the great interviews and discussions we have about his expertise, because each plan does not fit the same person, does not fit the same family specifically, but rather focusing on how do you succeed in diversification with a bull market of gold and silver, 2 hot commodities that have stood the test of time. And even with things like crypto on the horizon and exciting new ventures, you can actually hold gold and silver in your hands. It's tangible metals that, again, have really gone against the grain and against paper money that can just burn up in smoke and become virtually valueless overnight. You don't want that to happen to you. And now gold over $5,000 an ounce and silver not far behind it. I believe the last time I checked, $60 per ounce for silver. So it continues to skyrocket in this bull market. So take advantage of that today. And whether it's buying a first or second property, or even going into generational wealth for your family, this is perhaps the best option that you can take advantage of. So visit rsbnforthegold.com, rsbnforthegold.com, 888-617-7994. It's monetary gold for the win. Wealth security preservation. Give them a call today. Do not delay. Once again, 888-617-7994, rsbnforthegold.com. As we cover the latest within the federal city, the Beltway, as they call it, to outside of that. And if you have any stories that are pertinent to you, the American people, feel free to reach out to us at feedback@rsbn.tv, feedback@rsbn.tv. as we await the top of the hour, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump to host the national Christmas tree lighting at 6 o'clock Eastern, something you will love to see. It's an annual tradition here in America and in Washington, D.C., and really a time for the First Lady to shine as she's helping to secure Russian and Ukrainian children specifically that have been displaced throughout that terrible conflict, which, God willing, will be coming to an end. And how special would that be during this season of thanks? In case you missed it today, there was a Department of Justice press conference talking on the serious issues with FBI Director Kash Patel and FBI the director there, and also Attorney General Pam Bondi on hand, including Kash Patel's deputy there, Dan Bongino, to address a number of issues. And we have playback for that for you right now.
Hey, Peter. How we doing here? However you want to do it. Stay here. Yeah, perfect. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. As you all know now, early this morning, Brian Cole Jr. was arrested and charged with placing the pipe bombs at the RNC and the DNC on January 5th, 2021. He has been charged with violating 18 U.S.C. 844, which is use of an explosive device. This investigation is ongoing. As we speak, search warrants are being executed, and there could be more charges to come. I'm going to let our U.S. Attorney discuss that shortly. This was the work of multiple agencies working together. This morning's operation was carried out safely and successfully. We know that there are so many issues when you're issuing search warrants. Dangerous things can happen, and this was carried out safely and securely thanks to all of the people standing around me. They have worked tirelessly on this. Today's arrest happened because the Trump administration has made this case a priority. The total lack of movement on this case in our nation's capital undermined the public trust of our enforcement agencies. This cold case languished for 4 years until Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino came to the FBI. The FBI, along with U.S. Attorney Pirro and all of our prosecutors, have worked tirelessly for months, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI with the Biden administration for 4 long years. Let me be clear, there was no new tip, there was no new witness, just good, diligent police work and prosecutorial work, working as a team along with ATF, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police Department, and of course, the FBI. We are working every day to restore the public's trust. We hope that today is a significant step towards that progress. We'll share more information when we can and when it unfolds. I cannot stress enough how hard Director Patel and Deputy Director Bongino have worked for months to make our nation's capital safer and to make our country safer. I'd like to introduce now Director Patel.
Thank you, General. When you attack American citizens, when you attack our institutions of legislation, when you attack our nation's capital, you attack the very being of our way of life. And this FBI and this Department of Justice stand here to tell you that we will always refute it and combat it. We will provide the safest country the nation has ever seen under President Trump's leadership here. And that's what we did here today with great resolve on a case of massive public importance, as it should be. An individual who is now alleged to have placed multiple explosive devices to blow up multiple people and multiple officials, innocent civilians, is now arrested thanks to the brave men and women of the FBI and the interagency. I want to take a moment to thank the Metropolitan Police Department, the United States Capitol Police, our brave prosecutors, the Department of Justice, and our leader, Attorney General Pam Bondi, and U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro, whose relentless work on this case made this possible. As the Attorney General said, we did not discover any new information. What we did, an investigation spearheaded by the Deputy Director and the ADIC of our Washington field office, brought in a new team of investigators and experts, re-examined every piece of evidence, sifted through all the data, something that the prior administration refused and failed to do. As a result of that, we generated numerous investigative leads, executed multiple legal process with our U.S. attorney partners, and came to this conclusion today. And that is why we were able to safely secure this individual into custody. Remember, we are dealing with an individual who is alleged to have made bombs. We cannot do this sort of takedown in haste because it endangers the lives of law enforcement. And this FBI will never allow the lives of law enforcement and our prosecutors to be put in jeopardy. This execution was flawless in terms of teamwork, resilience, and just a good old-fashioned way of police getting the job done. When you let good cops be cops, this is what happens. I'm eternally grateful to the team behind me, to the leadership at the FBI who made this possible. But I do want to highlight, when I introduced the deputy, he made this case and so many others, including Summer Heat, his priority to come in here and solve it for the American people. And today, I'm proud to stand here before you and say, we solved it. He will have his day in court. The American public and the world will learn even more information through the legal process, as we have committed under this Attorney General. We are the most transparent law enforcement operation in U.S. history, but we are also going to make sure accountability is delivered to its fullest extent, and that happens in the courts of law with our U.S. attorneys and our prosecutors. So we will divulge information when it is prudent and constitutionally permissible, while upholding the safeguards of this case to make sure that the people that this individual intended to victimize get the accountability they deserve, and most importantly, to deliver on President Trump's promise to secure our nation's capital and the rest of the cities in this country, to make sure that Americans are allowed to go out free and securely in their neighborhoods, and that people around the world are allowed to visit our nation's capital, and they now have that trust thanks to the leadership of the FBI, the Washington field office, and I'm honored now to introduce to you Deputy Director Bongino, who spearheaded this investigation.
The Department of Justice doing an extraordinary job in what was looking like a cold case at one point of this alleged pipe bomber who placed those bombs outside the RNC and the DNC back on the eve of January 6th of 2021. A very strange situation. But if you remember that footage, if you've seen clips of that, hard in ways to track someone down that is completely covered head to toe with masks on, just like we saw back during COVID. And again, the great irony of all of this, the same people who were forcing you to mask up and do all of those different things throughout those blue states, they're not complaining that ICE agents are trying to protect their safety and identity in that fashion of wearing masks to protect themselves, as they should, with all of the threats that have happened against them and against their bodily autonomy as they seek to make America safe again. That's why we should be supporting and protecting and praying for them, as in the most recent operations in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and all the way down in New Orleans, Louisiana. So a very good job to the Department of Justice, and again, these people working overtime to make America safe again, with District Attorney Judge Jeanine Pirro, also Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino there on hand. And it's an issue that had a lot of people really confused and even playing devil's advocate at the time. Before he was Deputy FBI Director, Dan Bongino actually thought on his podcast that this could have been a government inside job. And we saw that an FBI really twiddle its thumbs and really dig its heels in the sand in this, what was turning out to be a cold case. But this FBI has completely flipped the script and has actually gone after the bad guys and the evildoers in a swift way that we really haven't seen justice move this quickly in a number of years, especially under the Comey and Wray FBIs that were riddled with government bureaucracy and perhaps corruption all the way up to the top. But we'll let those legal proceedings play out in what's sure to be a very interesting 2026. So we'll buckle up and be ready to bring you all of it and wherever the crumbs may lead. But I hope that people continue to pray and give the benefit of the doubt to a team that's come in less than a year, whether it's the cabinet, to the executive office of the President of the United States, to the Department of Justice, working overtime to bring liberty and justice to all in our fair United States of America. And we are joined by Katie Zachariah, political consultant. Very good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving and happy Advent as we get into the season of giving. Moments from now, we'll see President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump. But there's always a Scrooge in this, Katie, and it seems to be Governor Tim Walz and the SNAP benefits. And he turned his back on all of this seemingly, but we have Congresswoman Nancy Mace and the federal government trying to step in with legislation and to fix this problem that Brooke Rollins was talking about at the cabinet meeting.
Yes. We are looking at right now what we're looking at with Nancy Mace, and even just providing just to provide basic ID to be able to get SNAP benefits. What we're seeing nationwide is an attempt at fraud, both in voting and what we saw in like the Somali-based Minnesota scam of $1 billion with COVID funds, and now SNAP benefits and fraud. I think Nancy Mace is onto something, and especially having to provide the basic voter ID and photo ID and accountability.
Well, I'm curious as well, in your legal expertise and maybe what you've seen in California, some states seem to be violating this. In fact, there was a February directive from the Department of Agriculture to follow these things in regards to SNAP benefits. So let alone voter ID, where we saw the former vice president win 19 states that do not have any form of voter ID. We might have something that's arguably more crucial because American citizens are relying on these benefits when they're going wayward and actually have to be fed, especially minor children. So have you seen anything like this in your great state of California?
I haven't seen, obviously on just photo ID in general across the state we lack, right? And in the House or the Senate passed in California that you're actually banned from asking anyone for photo ID in order to vote in California. So not only do they not ask for it, they are not able to ask for photo ID. In regard to SNAP benefits, I don't have any specifics on California regulations on this. However, what we know is in order to receive the type of federal aid from federal government in any capacity, it should be a baseline requirement that you're a citizen and that you are able to get these benefits because you pay tax dollars or you're at least within the United States here legally. And if they do not start having a regulatory system on who gets benefits and that they're eligible to receive them, we will see a continued usurpation of American funds, of hard-earned American taxpayers going to people like illegal immigrants that don't deserve these benefits. So I think there is a baseline requirement for proof of citizenship and a voter ID, I keep saying voter ID because this is literally all I talk about every day is voter ID in order to save the midterm elections, but a photo ID. And if you're required to have what is now a real ID to go on an airplane, which it's required nationwide now, unless you have a passport or another form, but they really require real ID, which is predicated on citizenship and a valid address. If you're not asking that to receive federal benefits, I think we have a huge issue in this country. So President Trump is onto something. He's talked about you must be an American citizen to receive federal benefits. We just need to verify that.
Well, and both are so crucial as we go into 2026 because it actually affects the life and livelihood of every single American, especially those who are not of the voting age, because you disenfranchise those American citizens by literally taking their vote away. And I think in turn has led to the redrawing of maps from North Carolina potentially to your home state of California. I know that's going through a legal process right now. Of course, Texas, that started it off, but we saw that President Trump was on the phone with Speaker Johnson and Congresswoman Elise Stefanik running for governor up in New York. So it's all over this NDAA fight. Do you think that there might be, I guess for lack of a better term, some of these distractions that might affect Republicans come 2026? And we know with 220 in the House now, thanks to Matt Van Epps in Tennessee, it's such a narrow majority.
Oh, man, narrow majority indeed. And with Marjorie Taylor Greene exiting and having quite the loud exit, both with President Trump, but even from her congressional seat, I do think there's a lot of infighting, though what Elise Stefanik is requesting should never have been controversial, and I think should have been passed immediately. Speaker Johnson should have honored it. I have seen a lack of bravery. I'm going to step out on a limb here and talk about this for a second. They quickly passed the SAVE Act in the House, and it sits in the Senate. And within the Senate, the SAVE Act is proof of citizenship and photo ID to vote, right? The requirements for federal elections, and it sits in the Senate, and they're not doing anything with it because they can't pass it unless they get rid of the filibuster. With the same with my Speaker Johnson and the seditious six, right? We have 4 members of Congress and 2 senators that have gone out and likely, they've challenged the position of the commander in chief and told the military essentially to consider, as we've talked about, not to take illegal orders, yet have provided no illegal orders that they're so speaking of. But what Speaker Johnson and what we know Nancy Pelosi would have done if the roles were reversed, Speaker Johnson should have immediately called those 4 members and censured them. And at least put them in a holding pattern to investigate their claims that are calling President Trump, the commander-in-chief's orders to the military, illegal. And we just have seen this. I love Speaker Johnson, and he's been behind President Trump, but we haven't seen the kind of courage and bravery that is necessary ahead of these 2026 midterm elections to really show that the Republicans are strong. The Republicans are willing to do things that otherwise, are less popular, but they need to be done in order to preserve the Republic. And in my mind, what Elise Stefanik has proposed, it was a non-controversial provision for congressional disclosure, and I think preserves disclosure in the future when there's an FBI intelligence operation on or counterintelligence on presidential candidates. We saw what they did with President Trump. We saw how the FBI spied with Operation Arctic Frost on congressional members and Senate members. And I think that in the future, this just needs to be an obvious disclosure. And it's troubling that it wasn't immediate. So I think Elise Stefanik is so different from Marjorie Taylor Greene, 100% behind the president. And I think this was necessary to a little bit to light Speaker Johnson on fire and get stuff done and root out the deep state rot, as she said, of, that we're seeing in the Pentagon.
Yes, because that is spot on, Katie. And that's something I was not even really thinking about in my wheelhouse about a censure. And it makes a lot of sense as you mention it, because these seditious six went on different networks really throughout the Thanksgiving holiday, and they doubled down. And more often than not was, there wasn't an illegal order, but it was the hyperbole President Trump used and said during BLM and during COVID, when we saw that we almost lost Senator Rand Paul and his lovely wife, Kelly, to a mob that attacked them. If it wasn't for police officers right there outside the gates of the White House when President Trump took that second acceptance for the Republican nomination, they might not be with us here today. But then again, you have the seditious six who said, well, the president should not have asked the questions or alluded to perhaps people being shot at when it would have been a law enforcement call on the ground. And again, no illegal order, nothing's been proven. So I think it's important for Republicans to get tough come 2026. From where you're sitting at in California to across the country, how important is it for affordability and insurance costs to come into play for the Republican messaging?
affordability, President Trump said in maybe one or two not the cabinet meeting, a press conference maybe 2 times ago, he said the affordability crisis is a Democrat hoax. And I actually think that verbiage is correct. The affordability crisis was brought on by 4 years of having Joe Biden, the autopen presidency. And right now, President Trump's being asked to clean up the mess in a record time. And it brought me to this metaphor of whenever I leave my home and for an extended period of time, whether it's, a few hours or on a work trip, I come home and it's an absolute disaster. And it takes me 3, 4, 5 hours to bring the house back to normal and kind of restore all of the order. And this analogy for what President Trump is having to do with the country really hit home. Everyone is complaining about affordability in healthcare, but the Democrats had 4 years to take care of these issues. And not only did they not take care of these issues, they made them exceptionally worse, exponentially worse. And so as we look ahead at the midterms, I think what hits home for people is affordability. But President Trump, through tariffs and through the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill and through these multi-trillion-dollar deals that he's bringing into the United States, all of this takes time to kick in and restore order. And we're going to start seeing the fruit of that in this next year, especially at the beginning of this next year. But people are just spending so much time complaining about it. Look, we had record spending for Black Friday. I don't think we've had that kind of spending in history. We've had record travel over the Thanksgiving holiday. Secretary Duffy said we've never had this much air traffic and air travel in a Thanksgiving holiday in history, okay? Those 2 factors alone should indicate that people are comfortable spending money, which means, is affordability the issue, or is it an elusive issue? Is it an issue that the Democrats have said it's unaffordable to live in the country? Well, I'll tell you something. It is unaffordable, and it's unaffordable in California, where we pay the highest electricity costs because of Gavin Newsom, a blue state. We pay the highest gas prices because of Gavin Newsom, a blue state. And these blue states are really where the root of the issue is, because they're so protected from the effective policies of President Trump. And I think that's on purpose. I think the Democrats keep those prices high so they can blame it on President Trump. And so we don't get to enjoy the lower gas prices nationwide. So affordability is an issue, but it's really a blue state issue. And President Trump, it would be my recommendation, if I were in the administration or if I were advising on this, that the messaging gets honed in. You are paying high gas because you live under Gavin Newsom. And here are the gas prices in every other state. Here are the things I'm doing to bring down gas prices, but you don't get to experience that because your governor has kept the gas prices unusually high. I don't know how you get that to the American people, but it's actually the truth. And the proof's in the Thanksgiving pudding of the record high spending over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Well, we appreciate your in-depth analysis and messaging on this core issue as we go into 2026. It's Katie Zachariah. Thanks for coming on short notice to Right Side Broadcasting Network. Always a joy to be with you. In case we don't see you, have a wonderful holiday season, and thank you for being on the right side of history.
Thank you for having me on.
As we get ready for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, what a joy to be with the president and the first lady for an all-American, once-a-year activity that we can share with together. And I hope that in your neck of the woods, you'll be able to go maybe to your own Christmas tree lighting ceremony, whether it was a day after Thanksgiving or those great Kris Kringle markets that are out there that take on the Germanic tradition that we find here in the West, or even on travel perhaps on the other side of the pond to enjoy some of those great Christmas markets that you have found throughout Europe for the last countless generations and centuries. Thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. It's Merry Christmas to you. That's what we say from now on. Save up to 80% this holiday season with the master marketer himself, Mike Lindell. Use promo code RSBN for all of that. mypillow.com/RSBN. Over 2,000 different items on the market for you. support Mr. Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network. I love countless amount of MyPillow activities and MyPillow items, including MyPillow 1.0. I have yet to use the 2.0, but that's been very popular. 2, the My Coffee, one of my favorite coffees out there, and also those My Slippers, nice and comfy for this time of year. Thank you to Mike Lindell and mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 different items. Go check it out now. 80% off for this holiday season. Great for countless stocking stuffers, all made here in the USA, in the great state of Minnesota. We are your go-to live desk in the prime time, or early in the morning, or in the middle of the day, so you can take in all of the news inside and outside of the Beltway. Support us right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's rsbnetwork.com/donate, or text RSBN to 801-801 if you'd like to send the check or money order like they used to do it, or maybe you just kept on keeping on with all of that, which is a good thing too. 1550, that's 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, the loveliest village on the plains. It's Auburn, Alabama. 36830, 1550, Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. And although it is the loveliest village on the plains right now, those students out there, they're great kids, don't get me wrong, but there's a little bit of the anxiety from those finals. So if you have one in your household, make sure you tell them that there's more to life than just those finals. They're important, but there is the Christmas season right around the corner. Thank you for supporting us here at rsbnetwork.com/donate. Again, you could text RSBN, easy to remember, to 801-801 as we take on a legacy media and those false narratives out there to bring you the right side of history, and ultimately so you can make up your mind with this live desk that does not edit but bring you the speeches in full and real time to the sights and sounds of the 2024 campaign and beyond. As we look to the midterms, moments from now, we'll have President Trump and the First Lady out there for this Christmas tree lighting, a national ceremony that should be lots of fun. And we will look forward to bringing it to you here on the right side of history. In the meantime, we'll take a quick commercial break for those sponsors. Stick with us here. It's RSBN Prime Time. Do not change that channel. Get ready to kick off your Christmas.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.
Welcome back to RSBN in the prime time. I'm Robert McNeely. Very soon, the President of the United States, our First Lady, who has worked so hard and overtime on the Christmas celebrations, will be with us momentarily to host the National Christmas Tree Lighting. This is right outside of the White House. And, Capitol Hill has their ceremony, but this might be the nicer one of the two. Not that anyone's competing between three articles of government, the three branches that we do have in the legislative, the executive, of course, the judicial, number 1, 2, and 3. But number 2 really on highlight tonight in the executive as we get the Christmas season underway. And feel free to write to us, feedback at rsbn.tv. What is your favorite Christmas tradition? What is your favorite Christmas movie? So I talked about that a little bit earlier. My favorite is A Muppet Christmas Carol because they showcase the fourth wall goes down and the great Gonzo himself, as Charles Dickens, narrates the immortal classic known as A Christmas Carol. So tell us yours. Feedback at rsbn.tv. Feedback at rsbn.tv. As the weeks go on, we'll dive into the food. We'll dive into the familial traditions. But it is that time of year that we focus on a season of giving. And this administration is focused on that with the 9th meeting of the cabinet. Just this year alone, there were 9 total cabinet meetings under the auto pen. And even though the tail end of COVID was existing at that time, only 9 meetings between the heads of the departments. Amazing to think about as intergovernmental agencies from the state, local, and federal levels all coming together to secure this country, as DHS, HHS, also ICE, to the National Guard being deployed, including FBI agents who are on the ground, whether it be in Minneapolis, Minnesota right now, to New Orleans, Louisiana, what started out in Washington, D.C., all to safely and secure this great country of ours as we see the trickle effect of the failed policies from Alejandro Mayorkas, Pete Buttigieg, to Joseph R. Biden Jr., the auto pen himself, with President Trump nuking peacefully and patriotically, and not figuratively speaking, but getting rid of those executive orders that were under the auto pen. In fact, 92% of them. And when I asked him back on Air Force One before St. Patrick's Day, will this be a legal issue for those pardons? They said we have to see where it all goes, but it seems as if right now that is the case, because never in American history were individuals pardoned before being charged or accused of a crime. That's why the pardon is there in the first place. And President Trump putting that pardon in a bipartisan manner for Congressman Henry Cuellar of South Texas, because he saw what was happening on the border. He bucked his party and he said, no, we have to protect American citizens. And those who end up being, ironically, the most pro-border, pro-security, whether it's the ports in Miami, Florida with Cuban Americans to Mexican Americans along that Texas-Mexican line, they want safe and secure borders. President Trump was right about that as he came down that golden escalator back in 2015. And we've been on a journey together ever since to make America safe again, make America wealthy again, make America strong again, and ultimately to make America great again as we dive into issues that will be at the forefront come 2026. And this president bringing down the cost of living to the best that he can, as we just interviewed Katie Zachariah about that very important political strategy regarding messaging on affordability. We have a federalist system, and with that comes states' rights. With that comes some really goofy governors and some really poorly performing governors, from New York with Kathy Hochul to Minnesota and Tim Walz, and the controversy over these SNAP benefits and the fraud that took place with the Somali community. Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker now signing legislation that claims if you're on his wrong side of science, that you can be berated for it, that your company could be then again shut down, just as he shut down companies during COVID, all while his family was able to travel to South Florida or even southern Wisconsin on the horse farm. His children are equestrians. And I love that anyone in public life would want to do something like that, to be involved in recreation and equestrian practices. But at the same time, people were not allowed to see loved ones who are in nursing homes. And they weren't allowed to go to church. They weren't allowed to go to the gym. Things that are the most important for us, to have family and friends and to move our bodies and also to pray and worship together as a community. He prevented that directly. And then you have an individual, just like J.B. Pritzker, who wants to be president of the United States out west in California. He's a better podcast host than he is a governor of a state. Nothing against podcast and broadcasting. Heck, we do that right here. But this individual wants to be president when he has bankrolled and bankrupted the entire state of California, to making those high costs exist at the grocery store, to the pump, and everything in between. But in this season of giving, this president focused on peace through strength at the Donald J. Trump Peace Institute, today with the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda, these two nations that have been at war for generations, tribal warfare that led to 6 million plus in bloody losses of life, and the most since the end of World War II on a global scale. If you can really put that into perspective, into picture, as the African continent still facing great advances in people coming to Christianity, but at the same time, still areas that are impoverished, still areas in Nigeria suffering from Boko Haram and radical Islamic terrorism against those who simply seek to practice their Christian faith. To the Sierra Leone, where some of those ports are dangerous, including other areas of the country. And the least we can do as Bible-believing Christians, pray for those people, but also find where we can support efforts to bring safety, clarity, prosperity around the world. And this administration working on that directly when it comes to tariff negotiations, realigning the global economy, making the American dollar work for you, the American people, and to scale back that debt as much as we can. Now, $38 trillion of debt, mostly brought to you by President Trump's predecessors from President Clinton on, the living predecessors who enjoyed spending a bit of money, especially George W. Bush to Barack Hussein Obama, and the auto pen himself, spending money at an unprecedented level when his administration was in place. But a happier note, moments from now, we'll have President Trump and the First Lady hosting this all-American national Christmas tree lighting. For most of you at home, if you're just tuning in, you might be thinking, my goodness, it's 6 o'clock or 6:15 now on a Thursday. Where's the voice of reason? Well, the president and the First Lady, they take precedent. So we're going to move that to tomorrow for a special evening of the voice of reason at a time to be determined. We will share that for you on social media. And we have a special guest with perhaps a special announcement. Mr. Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow, to talk to us about all of these SNAP benefits that have been riddled with fraud in the state of Minnesota, a state he seeks to help serve and change. He's done that with the private sector, but perhaps now in the public sector. So be sure to tune in to episode 26 of The Voice of Reason come tomorrow, as I'm sure all of us are in full holiday mode off of the Thanksgiving festivities of last week. We know this president is, we know the First Lady is as well, who really has a schedule that mirrors and actually at sometimes can seem more than President Trump. And I kind of wonder, that's what I'd ask her if I got to see her in person, Madam First Lady. Do you at least get 8 hours of sleep? We know the president does not, but she has really created some amazing decorations through her office at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and also took the time, Mr. Director, if we do have that video once again, the First Lady visiting different military bases and getting out there and sharing the spirit of Christmas with all who want to make this country even stronger and better than ever before.
Today, we are surrounded by people whose strength is often quiet, but always powerful. Through every transition, every deployment, every homecoming, you continue to show grace, determination, and unbreakable spirit, all while giving comfort to your family. You carry this extra responsibility because you love someone who has sworn to serve. Today, we are here with the American Red Cross, which has stood beside military families for generations. Every package built here today is built with American values. Each represents liberty, love, community, and honor. Each is delivered with heart and love, the foundation of our great nation.
And that was at Camp Lejeune. That was the first trip with First Lady Melania Trump and Second Lady Usha Vance together to meet with those during the holiday season. We also know the second couple as well, giving out Thanksgiving dinners back on Wednesday, about 8 days ago. So our military definitely beloved by this administration, and we've seen it in the numbers. The proof is in the pudding. To have seen all of this increase in military and those who would selflessly give their lives. And we saw the terrible attack over the holiday in Washington, D.C. With Sarah Beckstrom, such a strong and brave individual, 20 years young, who recently sworn into the West Virginia Guard and gave up or replaced someone who was hoping to share the holidays with family. In fact, an individual of the Guard who was married to get back to West Virginia, taking their place. And then we have that dastardly terrorist act that was brought on by a 29-year-old who came over here from Afghanistan, who was part of a CIA program in counterintelligence. And it makes you really wonder about things sometimes and what needs to be reformed at the federal level as this administration continues to do just that on a daily basis. And we have word that the motorcade is en route. It's not a very far trip there to that Christmas tree, as we thank Kalshi.com/RSBN, who will President Trump pardon this year. Chang Peng Zhao to Roger Ver to our friend Steve Bannon. He just pardoned Henry Cuellar, the Democrat from the Lone Star State of Texas. Will Bitcoin hit 150,000 before March Madness? We'll see what happens there. Also, the most important question, I know it's on the minds of countless viewers here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Will my Chicago Bears get to the Super Bowl and maybe take on Mr. Producer's New England Patriots in a repeat of what would be the 1986 version, 40 years in the making, of Super Bowl 20. That would be fun to see. Scan that QR code now, Kalshi.com/RSBN, for all of music, sports and culture, politics, and much, much more. We're on the right side of history, and we are honored to join Kalshi.com/RSBN to talk a number of different American issues. And why not trade and bet and make some money from those very questions? Again, Kalshi.com/RSBN. Trade on literally anything, sometimes in real time. Scan that right there, that QR code, and get started today. As we wish you a Merry Christmas early, because we have the first couple about to light that Christmas tree, and the pre-programming happening just a little while ago with members of the cabinet. And this is an event that takes place every single year, and it's nice to have a president who is really pushing the narrative of Merry Christmas once again, and not ignoring what is the biggest holiday this year, and nothing wrong with any other celebration. They're all this time of year of goodwill. It's a season of giving, a time where we pause and really think about giving back to our community, to our country, and to the world as a whole. This is the most generous nation on earth, and that was proven this week, again, by Michael and Susan Dell. In case you missed that, the two of them pledging $6.25 billion in Trump accounts. Be sure to watch that via trumpaccounts.gov, in order to give your child a head start in this country. This will specifically benefit those born between January 1st of this year to December 31st of 2028. And if you have a child 10 or younger, and with the $1,000 donation to get that account started in their private account, which is very similar, it actually mirrors an IRA. If you're in a zip code that has an average salary of $150K or less, an additional $250 from the government to help that get jump-started. So with some measures, you actually can be a millionaire by the time you're 30 years old with these Trump accounts, if you keep pouring to them on an annual basis with a cap of around $5,000 in charitable giving. So it's a wonderful stocking stuffer if you're thinking of one, but also an employer-backed initiative as well as part of this program. As we're getting a live look there now of the festivities that will be happening just moments away as the motorcade is en route to the National Christmas Tree Lighting. And again, you'll have the President of the United States and our very own First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump, who puts this all together. I mean, it's really remarkable to watch her office in action. And as her side of the White House gets renovated with a 9,000 square foot ballroom, it will be nearly twice the size of the executive mansion itself at 5,500 square feet. And if you've been to Mar-a-Lago into that presidential ballroom, it will be just as beautiful, if not more beautiful, for future administrations. And of course, this administration to enjoy for heads of state and maybe some congressmen who don't necessarily deserve it. I'm only playing fun there and playing jest as we see really a sold-out crowd there at the pavilion, where they also host Memorial Day gatherings and celebrations, which are always moving. In case you see the narration of the great actor, Lieutenant Dan himself, Mr. Gary Sinise, the Gary Sinise Band that has been doing such good for countless veterans throughout America, and the Gary Sinise Foundation that makes sure to never forget those who have given in the last full measure of devotion, and also their family members. And we don't discriminate here at the network when it comes to the wonderful veterans charities that are out there, from Tunnels to Towers to Wounded Warrior Project, and perhaps countless others that do such good for our veterans. But we celebrate those Memorial Day gatherings there right at this pavilion, just as we are celebrating the Christmas season here in this Advent time, a season of waiting, a season of charity as we get ready to celebrate the birth of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And perhaps not since President Ronald Reagan have you heard speeches from a president that so earnestly and honestly and often names our Lord on a regular basis. As President Trump has said on the campaign trail, people have told him, "You're the most famous person in the world." He said, "No, there's someone bigger. His name is Jesus Christ." And he looks up to the heavens. It's really a pleasure to have that, as whether it's in jest about the whole comments about not going to heaven or going to heaven or whatever it might be. President Trump is someone who clearly was changed as we look back to July 13th of 2024 and that scary moment where we almost lost him. And the leader of a movement, a person who simply came down an escalator, one that he built himself in the Trump Tower, to make America great again and to lead with the immigration issue, among many others, to bring a business perspective into our government. And we're seeing the benefits of all that, as our friend Katie Zachariah mentioned about all of the spending happening this time of year. Let's send to Washington, D.C. to see the President and the First Lady.
Gabby Barrett, Jillian Cardarelli, John Hardy, Matthew West, the Beach Boys, and Warren Zeiders, with music director Tara Cacconi and the U.S. Navy Commodores. And now, your hosts, Gabby Barrett and Matthew West.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, America. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas, America. Welcome to the 103rd National Christmas Tree Lighting. This is so exciting, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Hello, everybody.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, America. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas, America. Welcome to the 103rd National Christmas Tree Lighting. This is so exciting, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Hello, everybody. We are just a few steps away from the world's most famous house, getting ready to light up the world's most famous tree, and you can't top that.
You cannot top that. I am so thrilled to be here with you, Gabby, at the White House and President's Park, where for over 100 years, this uniquely American tradition has brought our country together.
And as we come together tonight, it's important to remember those who can't be here with us. So let's give a special moment of deep appreciation to all of our men and women in uniform serving this great nation around the world. And may they feel our gratitude for all that they give.
Absolutely. That's right. We are so thankful. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, and First Lady Melania Trump.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. It is beautiful, not too cold. There's no wind. We don't have to wear hats or anything. This is a special time. And Melania and I are thrilled to wish everyone here tonight and Americans all across this land a very, very Merry Christmas. So is everybody ready to light the beautiful Christmas tree? Are you ready? So the First Lady is going to do the honors, and we're going to do a countdown. We'll go from 5 to 0, okay? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Honey. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, Melania. And it's a beautiful job they did on creating that tree. It's a beauty. And let me also recognize Vice President J.D. Vance and Second Lady Usha, as well as Secretaries Scott Bessent, Pete Hegseth, Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretaries Doug Burgum and Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., Administrator Kelly Loeffler, and their wonderful families are doing a fantastic job. And I see out in the audience the great one, Wayne Gretzky and Janet. Thank you very much, Wayne, for being here. He's used to this kind of weather. Let's also express our gratitude to the great people of the National Park Service. They're incredible, the job they've done, as well as the unbelievable performers here tonight. You're going to see some incredible performers, and we have in the audience the Beach Boys. They're great. During this holy season, Christians everywhere rejoice at the miracle in Bethlehem more than 2,000 years ago, when the Son of God, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, came down from heaven to be with us. You're right. Full of grace and truth, he brought the gift of God's love into the world and the promise of salvation for every person and every nation. And we just settled another war today. You saw that with Rwanda and the Congo. It's been going on for 34 years, millions of people killed. Could be 20 million. They don't know what the number is, and we just settled it today. That was a big one. We're very happy to announce it on this important day. Tonight, this beautiful evergreen tree glows bright on the dark and cold winter night and reminds us of the words of Gospel of John, "In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind." Beautiful words. With the birth of Jesus, human history turned from night to day. His word and his example call us to love one another, to serve one another, and to honor the sacred truth that every child is specially made in the image of God. For 250 years, think of it, our country is 250 years. This is a big year. I'm so happy that our presidency was delayed. Otherwise, I'd be sitting home watching television, not being invited. I would be extremely upset. And remember, we have not only the 250 years, but this is a big one. We have the World Cup and we have the Olympics coming up, all within this 4-year period. See, if they didn't rig the election, I would have been sitting, can you imagine? I wouldn't have any of them. And I probably wouldn't have been invited. I would have been very upset by that. But America has stood tall in part because millions of our citizens have heeded that call, and the faith and service of Christians have been essential parts of America's strength from the very, very beginning. Incredible. We love the Christians. We love all religions. And by the way, religion is coming back to the USA. You see that very strongly. So this Christmas season, let me say thank you to everyone who serves the needy and lifts up the communities inspired by faith. Thank you to the police, law enforcement officers, first responders, ICE, and Border Patrol agents who risk their lives every day to defend the innocent, protect the good, and keep the evil and danger at bay. And thank you to the men and women of the United States military, including the brave heroes of our National Guard here in Washington, D.C., where we've set a record for lack of crime in 28 years. So I just want to say we have a great place, and I want to pay my highest respects to those two great guardsmen. You know who I'm talking about. They paid, in one case, the ultimate, and the other. Andrew is getting better. Sarah, unfortunately, is watching from a high, watching from heaven. Her parents are so incredible, and Andrew is hopefully getting better. He got hit hard defending us, and I just want to pay my respects to them. Two incredible people, unbelievable people. I spoke with the parents and met the parents today, met the parents of Andrew, and they have spirit and they love our country so much you wouldn't believe. But as a nation, we have much to be grateful for. On this holiday season, our border is secure, our spirit is restored. Most secure border we've ever had in the history of our country. 7 months, and nobody has come in illegally into our country. Nobody, not one. Our economy is thriving, inflation has stopped, our nation is strong, and America is back bigger and better, stronger, better than ever before. Think of it. And we're making peace all over the world. We're settling wars at levels that nobody's ever seen before. 8 of them. We're looking for one more. That's Russia, Ukraine, if that's possible. And I think we'll get there eventually. Last week, 8,000 soldiers killed. Last month, they had 27,000 soldiers needlessly killed. We got to get that stopped. We're working very hard on it. Just over 1 year ago, our country was in very, very serious trouble. The King of Saudi Arabia said to me very strongly, "Sir, 1 year ago your country was dead. Now you have the strongest and hottest country anywhere in the world." Can you imagine? We did this in 10 months. What a difference, and it's true. Everybody feels that, and all leaders feel that. So as we prepare to celebrate the miracle of Christmas, we thank God for his many blessings, and together we rejoice at the true source of greatness, happiness, and strength. The good news is that glorious nights 2,000 years ago, think of it, 2,000 years ago, it was indeed a glorious night. So I want to thank everybody here. I want to pay my deepest respect and love to all of our great citizens, like 350 million people, We love them all. Whether you like them or not, we love them all. We want to take care of everybody. We have to take care of everybody in our country. I want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and have a good time. And you're going to see some great entertainment. Thank you very much, everybody. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
And a very Merry Christmas to President and Mrs. Trump as well. Get all America First updates and exclusive offers right here, the right side of history, rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. And there you can find the great stories written in about the main issues facing you inside and outside of the Beltway in this great constitutional republic known as the United States of America. You can also like, share, and subscribe right there at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. We appreciate that a lot to get the word out there as your go-to live desk gearing up for 2026 and the battle for the heart and the soul and the future of this great country in a golden era as we approach 250 years of constitutional governance with a big grand UFC fight right there on the South Lawn of the White House. We look forward to that, but first comes first. It's the Christmas season, and we hope that you are enjoying with the ones you love as we gear up this Advent season to Hanukkah and Christmas. We are all smiles here at the network with some breaking news coming through. SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, allowing Texas to have the new congressional map drawn by Republicans that has given them 5 more GOP-leaning districts. So some great news there. We'll see what happens with that Prop 50 from California and Governor Gavin Newsom's response to it. We'll see if that holds up in the courts. In the meantime, all America First updates and exclusive offers again right here at rsbnetwork.com/newsletter. Let not your hearts be troubled. Tomorrow, a special edition of The Voice of Reason for all of my wonderful colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Have a lovely evening. May God bless you. I'm Robert McNeely signing off, and I bid you adieu on this wintry Thursday evening in the United States of America.
Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network, your trusted conservative news outlet. At RSBN, we deliver the truth when the mainstream media falls short. Since 2015, we've proudly broadcasted every single one of President Trump's iconic MAGA rallies, bringing you the excitement and energy live before anyone else. By watching RSBN, you get an unfiltered front row view of the action on the ground. We interview the crowds to give a voice to millions of Americans just like you. We show you President Trump's speeches in their entirety, free from interruptions and censorship. We cover the stories that matter to you with the integrity and passion you deserve. Thank you for choosing RSBN as your home for America First News. Together, we stand strong, united, and informed. So join us and be part of the right side of history.
Every once in a while, something big happens, something that changes everything. And now, in a defining moment for crypto, Trump Media Group and Crypto.com are joining forces to acquire up to $6.4 billion of CRO, launching America's first ever CRO treasury, empowering the Kronos blockchain. This is more than a partnership. It's the future of finance built in America. For more, visit Crypto.com, where millions trade CRO every day.
Tired of being told no by your doctor, your pharmacy, or worse, your insurance company? You're not alone. Millions of Americans are waking up to a broken healthcare system. That's why more and more people are turning to All Family Pharmacy. We believe in medical freedom. We deliver the prescription and the medication, all from licensed U.S. doctors and pharmacists, from ivermectin and trusted antibiotics to maintenance medications, even NAD+, the revolutionary anti-aging supplement. Use code RSBN10 at checkout for 10% off your first order.
Hey y'all, it's Silk from Diamond and Silk Chit Chat Live. Look, don't forget to watch my show right here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, and I want you to support Right Side Broadcasting Network. It's imperative that you do so, okay? Bye-bye.